Right, everybody, happy Tuesday. Now officially 2/3 of the way through September. 10 more days, and then we're into October. My God, just, yeah, yeah. I don't know where it goes. But anyway, I said yesterday I had a couple of pages left of these notes. Actually, it's not even a page. I just about finished them. Fell just short of finishing this topic yesterday. Um, Just a couple more things here on the Vatican. The Vatican has its own newspaper, of course, its own postal service, its own radio and television station, its own prison, believe it or not. Its chief prisoner should be the Pope, but anyway. And again, it has its own flag and army of Swiss guards. Does this sound like the epicenter of a religion to you? How come this doesn't cause anybody to stop and pause and ask some serious questions? You could understand Catholics themselves not asking questions. They never do. They're just mindless drones that follow whatever they're told. That should be what happens. They should ask, gee, why am I following this institution as a religion when it has all the hallmarks of a political enterprise? No, 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 no. The very fact that they belong to it by default disqualifies them for thinking rational human beings. But how is it that people outside of the bitch don't see this? Even non-Catholics, a good many of them, don't seem to have an aversion to the institution. Years ago, it was a given with most people that abominable institution was something to be highly suspicious of. Hell, people were upset when Kennedy got elected because they thought that this was, and for good reason. Not that Kennedy himself needed to be distrusted, but just the fact that a Catholic got into office, people were highly concerned that this was a sign that the church wanted to weasel its way into power, because that's always how that institution has worked. So there was good reason to be suspicious of it and, of its members, unfortunately. Not that you want to go prejudging everybody, but knowing how the fucking thing has always operated, yeah, there was reason for people to be concerned. Not anymore. Not anymore. People have their heads stuck down the throats of this lion, petting it, thinking it's a little harmless kitty. Well, just watch where that's going. This institution has never, ever been worthy of trust. It hasn't changed one iota, except to rearrange the show window, But inside the store, they're selling the same goods, the same rotten snake oil goods. Scares the shit out of me that people are not suspicious of it. Even non-Catholics, have a fondness, a good many of them, a fondness for the Pope. Oh, cute little old fart there over in Rome, harmless. They think he's wise. We would do good to follow him. Follow him right off the edge of the goddamn cliff. But anyway, a religious central office that has its own postal service. Hell, it exchanges diplomats with foreign nations. Jesus Christ, man. has its own prison, again, its own flag, army. Hey, wait a minute here. Its own bank. Anyway, so there you have it. The New World Order is being run by 3 cities or city-states or corporations. That's what they are. All of which consider us their employees or their property to do with us as they please. And they do. But there you go. Those 3 cities are things to keep your eyes on. But for most people, there's no problem there, nothing to be concerned about. Most people don't even know that those 3 cities are, in fact, independent, sovereign states. And when you tell them, they just give you that blank, dumbass stare. Huh? Like it's no big deal. Oh, man, we're in a lot of trouble, guys. I don't know. Anyway, I thought it would be interesting to follow that subject up with a discussion on maritime law. I actually put these notes together a long time ago, and to be honest, I don't even know what the hell's in here anymore. It's been so long. Some of this info might be outdated, outmoded, but this is an important topic. In fact, I've got 3 books here in my to-do list that a listener had sent me a while back on this topic, and son of a gun, I haven't even started to look through them yet. Technically, I should have done that before I even got into this topic. I wasn't thinking, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great info in them that would enhance these notes. I'll just return to the subject at a later time. I haven't started that project yet because I know once I do, I'm going to have to read all 3 of them in tandem. I'm just not going to be able to read one. But the gist of these 3 books is, maritime law. So maybe I'll do an addendum to this at some point. But it is a very interesting topic. Of course, it's multifaceted. It branches off into many different areas. But it pertains to the previous topic we just covered yesterday, because that is the kind of system that we are under. Because of DC being a corporation, we are under maritime law. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't even know what that means. And so, it seems to not be something important to them. Oh, it's something important, all right. It's very important. Because the system they operate under is something entirely different, something entirely antithetical to what most people think they're under. Of course, the Constitution itself is something entirely different than most people think. No. Even a lot of people that are aware of maritime law and the scam they're pulling, they think that their salvation is the Constitution. And even though there's some good things in there that we do well to follow, that our government would do well to follow, nevertheless, the way it was written, the way it was set up, as we've talked about before, the whole goddamn thing is a trap, guys. People think they're grabbing on to a life preserver, and they're actually holding on to a lead weight. That's how rigged this whole damn operation is and ever has been. But anyway, let's take a look at this here. Many people don't recognize the fact that the, quote, United States, written in all capitals, is actually a corporation, and that we've been relegated to employees of that corporation, exploitable slaves, if you will. There's a reason why legal documents always list, especially court documents, always list, titles like that, and including your own name in capitals. So that when they ask you, are you so-and-so, are you John Smith? And you answer yes, you've hung your own neck right there without even realizing it. Because the John Smith that they have listed there is not you. It's not you, John Smith, the human being. It's their John Smith, the corporate piece of property, that when you agree to consent that you are that John Smith, you've just legally signed over your rights as an individual, as a human being, as an independent, living, breathing, thinking, biological entity. And now you have become a commodity, an exploitable piece of property. And so everything that proceeds now in the court, you have no legal rights. You've signed them over to them. That's what's going on. In their mind, that's what's going on. It doesn't matter what's going on in your mind. They don't recognize that. They only recognize what's going on in their mind. And by you agreeing to identifying yourself with that artificial entity listed on that paper that looks like that it's you, but it's not, you've just subjected yourself now to their jurisdiction. When all you have to do, and again, not that that matters, because you can just bring somebody in and put a bullet in your head, but right off the bat, you've already lost the battle in doing that. All you have to do is say, actually, no, that's not me, Your Honor. I hate to even use that title, Your Honor. Most of them aren't worthy of any honor, nothing honorable about them. Half of them are goddamn frickin' pedos, like most of your Catholic priests. Well, I don't know about most, but one hell of a good many of them. Anyway. All you have to do is say, no, sir, I don't sign my name like that. I never sign my name in all capitals. I don't recognize that as me. That's all you have to say. And they can't argue. Technically, you're not being contemptuous. You're just stating a fact. I don't write my name that way. Anyway, Washington, D.C. is not the legitimate seat of authority of the United States, with only a capital U and a capital S, referring to the various states that are united. It's not the legitimate seat of authority, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. It hasn't been since 1871. It is literally a separate entity from the rest of the country that operates on a different set of rules that are alien, to us, alien to the Constitution, as screwy as that document is, as full of holes as it is, and loopholes and whatnot. It operates entirely separate from that. It is, in fact, a corporation, again, and that's it. It became incorporated on February 21st, 1871, when the 41st Congress was in session. In Acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Session 3, Chapters 61 and 62, we find that Congress passed an article titled, An Act to Provide a Government for the District of Columbia. It's also known as simply as the Act of 1871. This is how it all began. In passing this act, Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which again is a 10-mile square parcel of land. From that moment on, Washington, being the corporation that it is, has operated like the central office of any other corporation. Totally and exclusively in the interest of the heads of that corporation and its investors, i.e., the lobby groups, with absolutely no regard for the exploitable, expendable, replaceable customers and employees. The U.S., the U.S. citizenry. When a corporation makes decisions, does it consult its employees? It doesn't give a shit. You're just the hired help. If you don't like it, just leave, or we'll fire you and replace you. They make the decisions. You have no say. Your opinion is worth next to not next to nothing. It's worth nothing. They don't give a shit. They don't give a damn. And so it is in Washington, guys. You know, technically, they're operating the way that they should. People say, I can't believe the stuff they get away with. I can't believe it. Well, I can't believe it either. But at the same time, people need to realize they're operating well within the bounds of the system that they have created, the system that they have established. They're not supposed to be operating in your interests. America should have woken up a long time ago to realize what the hell they did in 1871 and demand that that system be abolished and reestablished, which is why I say you can't reform something, guys. It's gone. It's irreformable. This system, you cannot reform it, which is another joke when it comes to the election. People always say, oh, just vote to change things. Yeah, right. Not only is it not set up for you to do that because it's all frickin' rigged and these monkeys are hand-picked, but the very system, the nature of it, it's not there. It's not established to run the way you think it does. It's not a government that is supposed to be operating in the interest of the people. It's not established that way. That's not its function. That's not its purpose. It is a corporation. That's why they pander to the interest. It's just like any other company who has its investors. Those are the people that attend the board meetings. Those are the ones that the board members in making their decisions want to please, not the employees or even the customers. They don't give a shit about them. They don't want the customers getting upset with them because they're afraid they might not buy their products. So they'll tell their customers a bunch of bullshit just to keep them happy. But the decisions they make aren't based on what the customers want, obviously, right? Look at the products corporations push out all the time. Every day that goes by, they're dwindling away the quality while jacking up the price, aren't they? Oh, and I look back, at days when I was a kid, and I think of, the lower cost of things and the higher quality. Everything was made better when I was a kid. Cars were more solid. You could get a fender bender without getting your whole goddamn car totaled. And when you drove it off the lot, you could count on that thing, if you took care of it, lasting you for 20, 30 fucking years. Now you don't even get 20, 30 months out of the goddamn thing. No sooner does the warranty run out, and so does the car. It's useless. It's time to get a new one. And oh, do you pay? You pay dearly to buy a new car today, don't you? You pay, in fact, twice as much twice as much for a car today than what you paid for a house 30, 40 years ago. What's wrong with that picture? But this is the nature of the corporation, guys. Always looking for ways to fuck you. Always looking for ways to charge you more and give you less. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? And that's how this government works. As time goes on, what has been happening, just like a corporation, because that's what they are. They lie to you, they bullshit you. They're only there to please their investors, in this case, the lobby groups. Fill you with bullshit so you won't get upset and the whole gig will be up. Fill you with bullshit, but all the while, all they do is pander to the interests of their pocket feeders. And they sell you a product that dwindles in quality. With the passing of every moment, and yet charging you more for the bullshit product that they're pawning off of you that continues to degrade into worse and worse levels of inferiority. They charge you more for that product, don't they? In this case, they raise your taxes. The analogy is astonishing, and it applies in so many ways, because literally it is a corporation, but also just looking at how it operates. Yeah. It's a corporation through and through, isn't it? Operates exactly the way a corporation does. And just like corporations pollute the environment, fill it with all kinds of trash, they pollute our environment on a daily basis, don't they? Literally and figuratively. In every sense, the parallels are there. They're striking. Anyway, it was at this time that the federal, the 1871 law that was passed, it was at this time that the government, the federal government, started using capital letters to designate itself and its franchises, the citizens of the former republic. It was at this time that caps began to be used in all legal documents to identify you as their property. Have you noticed, even when you get a bill in the mail now, it's always in everything. Everything is in caps, all legal documents, so that if you had to go to court for some reason, or if you wanted to take this, that, or the other company to court because they're overcharging you or, whatever, your name is in caps, even with your goddamn phone bill or your oil bill, to make sure that any legal proceedings, if you can even afford such things anymore, will ensure that you don't get anywhere, because you'll be identified in those legal documents that you bring as a piece of corporate property that has no rights. As further proof that the United States government is incorporated, check out the United States Code, all in caps, Title 28, 3002, 15A, B, and C. There it's stated unequivocally that the United States is, in fact, a corporation. They don't even hide it. In fact, they're proud of it, they boast about it, and they laugh at the gullibility of the dumb saps that have no idea that this change has taken place. We, the people, have been reduced to mere subjects, ladies and gentlemen, compliant employees of corporate headquarters over there in D.C. That's all we are. You can scream, moan, kick, and fuss, but in their estimation, you're corporate property. You have no say. How dare you question us? We're your corporate masters. Why? We can fire you at any time. People are upset over the Patriot Act, Homeland Security Act, on and on and on, that the government, if they so chose, could at any time disappear you, haul you off and torture you. And guys, they're doing like any other corporation does. They're doing this because they're a corporation and you're their corporate property. You don't have any rights in their estimation. And as long as you consent to being that person in caps in those documents, you're telling them you're going along with it. I mean, not that they're not going to put a bullet in your head anyway, but to go along with it just makes it all the more easy for them. So you can show up in court and claim that you have this, that, and the other right, and they don't have any rights to do this to you, and they laugh at you when all the while you're consenting to be that person in caps. What a mind fuck. We're nothing but human resources. Where do you think that term came from? It's all part of the legal verbiage of, the corporate United States. Human resources. Think about that, guys. We are resources that can bring in a potential profit for the corporation called the United States. Resources. Exploitable resources, just like coal, to be tossed into the furnace and burned, that can produce energy and make a profit for the corporation, or oil to put into the furnace, in a more modern context. Not many people use coal anymore. But you understand my point. That's all you are to them. And you're only of use or value to them in so much as they can make a profit off of you. If they're not making a profit off of you, but instead you're draining the system, what they would call useless eaters. They're the ultimate useless eaters, but in any case, you become expendable if you're not turning over a profit for the corporation. You're no longer a resource for them now. You're a liability. So you become expendable, which is why they've been pushing, the whole Kevorkian thing over the years. They want to get rid of seniors, and they have been, guys. They're doing it all the time in hospitals, pulling the plug on them. They're overdosing them. All right, guys, welcome back. It's really mind-blowing when you stop and look at this this ugly picture for what it is. But this is how they can do what they do, guys, without any conscience. They don't have a goddamn conscience. But this is the kind of mentality they have. If you want to understand what's going on in their sick and twisted heads, this is the context for understanding it right here. They're running a business, a very big and profitable business. So many people have touched on the issue, but they've never fully grasped the whole, it's like they're trying to describe an elephant just by touching the trunk or the tail. No, you've got to step back and look at the whole beast to really know what it is that you're dealing with. Some people have made the point that this country only operates on behalf of big money. That's all they care about is big business. And yeah, that's true. But why is it true? Because the government itself that runs this country is a fellow corporation. So they're working in conjunction with all the other corporations because it's mutually advantageous for them to do so, just like you have in the corporate world. You've got corporate mergers. You've got companies agreeing not to compete with one another. You've got them working to secure their monopolies at the high end, the high rungs of the ladder, to ensure that smaller companies are either not able to compete with them or that they crush them out if they feel that they, can become a threat at any future time. It's the same thing with the government. It conspires with the top-notch corporations. They work together to preserve and protect their interests and make sure that no other competing force is ever able to climb that ladder, if necessary, they'll snuff out any such force. They're operating exactly as you would expect. There's nothing to scratch your head about here and be bewildered over, wondering, how can they do this? No. It makes total goddamn sense once you understand what it is you're dealing with. Corporations are heartless son of a bitches, aren't they? They don't give a shit about you, about anybody else, about things that actual human beings care about. No, they don't. They don't care that they're polluting, poisoning the environment, that they're going to give tens, hundreds, thousands of people, yea, even millions of people cancer. In fact, they look for ways to give people cancer. They want to reduce the population, to reduce their expenditures, to reduce their overhead. They're operating exactly as you would expect once you realize what they're all about. In fact, under Executive Order 13037, we are all considered nothing more than human capital, ladies and gentlemen. Human capital, human resources. We're only useful to the corporation. They're not there to serve our interests. That's what most dumbass, mindless drones think. They're in Washington to work for us. Oh, you don't understand how it works. When you pay taxes, you're not paying their salaries. You're paying your union dues, if you will. You're required to do it to remain an employee of the corporation. And so for those that want to opt out of this fraud, and it is a fraud, the whole thing's a fraud, but for those that want to opt out, why? You're no longer useful to the corporation. You're in the way. You're a useless eater. You need to be eliminated. You don't even have the right to exist anymore. You're like a rat in the basement of the corporation. You're a liability now. You got to go. Why? You're carrying a contagion. That's how they view it, these sick son of a bitches, guys. Anyway, we got a caller on the line. Welcome to the show, caller.
So, Charlie, now it's the corporations that are causing all the trouble, right?
Oh, you know what? Right now, you're causing all the trouble. Why do you even listen to my show? Before I hang up on you, I have to ask that question. Why do you listen?
Well, because,
Because you're a dumbass?
I defend the truth, Charlie, and you just talk bullshit.
Tell us about
the truth
all
the day, and you want nobody to call in. You don't want anyone to call in and correct you.
Tell us how wonderful your God is. What has your God done for you today? Wait. Your version of the word truth is how wonderful your God is, right? What has your God done for you today? Tell us. How wonderful is your God?
My God has given me life, Charlie, and the ability.
Has he really? He's done a good job at it, hasn't he? Shut the fuck up. Don't call into my show again. I got to remember that. 132. The prefix. I see that number again. I'm not even going to fucking answer it. Oh, these fucking people, man. Maybe he's trying to give me a heart attack by raising my blood pressure. That's probably his agenda, because that's the attitude that people like that have. Most religious people, guys, they have the taste of your blood on their lips. They lick their chops, hoping that one of their fellow religio dupes is going to become president one day. And I mean, that's what the religious right was hoping with Pat Robertson back in the 80s. Win the nation back for Jesus. They're hoping that the good old days of the Inquisition are going to come back. They do. They want to see people like me, like many of my listeners, hopefully all of my listeners, who recognize religion as the fucknut piece of goddamn shit that it is. They're hoping that one day they can use governmental power to stone to death people that question their all-loving God. So your God gave life to you, right? Why? So he could turn around and fuck with you and have these tribal bastards make your life a miserable living hell? Because he's a sick, twisted, sadistic bastard? You're going to give him thanks for that? Get the fuck out of here. Goddamn bullshit. I'd rather talk to a David Ickean guys than people like that. They annoy me much less. But did you catch that question? So what do you say now? Now it's the corporations that are the bad guys? What the fuck are you talking about? So you like corporations? Yeah, I guess you do. You like churches. They're corporations too, aren't they? 501 fucking C3 corporations, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, they're good things. They're not a problem for this world, are they? No, they're wonderful. Get the fuck out of here. You might as well praise corporations. You praise that almighty prick up in the sky, the child-murdering bastard, psychopathic son of a bitch called Yaya. So, yeah, you might as well defend corporations. They're right along in line with his mentality. Anyway. Other than to hijack this show and distract me, what other purpose could a mental nutcase like that have in calling into this show? And like I said, why is he even listening? I'm blaspheming his psychopathic deity. I'm blaspheming him. And yet he still tunes in. There's something wrong with his neurological connections, isn't there? Not only because he's a follower of that bullshit religion, but to be listening to this show. Seriously. I mean, how can you even stomach it? Fuck you, Yahweh. Fuck you, Yahweh. Doesn't that even bother you? Why do you tune into this show? Aren't you afraid you're going to go to hell listening to someone who says, fuck you, Yahweh? You raging, drizzling piece of horse shit? Anyway. But you see why, ladies and gentlemen, amongst other things, we've been lied into so many wars. The United States, all in caps, has an army to protect its corporate interests, just like the East India Company once had. The East India Company used to have its own army, ladies and gentlemen, that would go to war on its behalf to protect its profits, usually on the high seas, but even on land if necessary. And so it is today with the United States. So many people are puzzled. Why is it? We're always going, to this, that, and the other country and sticking our nose where it doesn't belong. And there's a lot of people who recognize something just doesn't smell right here, but they never quite figure it out. They're operating exactly as you would expect them to. They're corporations. They need to protect their corporate profits. If they can't do it through, financial wheelings and dealings and chicanery like the WTO and the bullshit scams that they pull, if they can't do it underhandedly, well, then they have to do it outright, openly with military might. First, they send in their little jackals, as you read in the book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It is an interesting book. They send in the jackals first. If that doesn't work, well, first they'll send a diplomat over, and try to suck this, that, or the other political leader into taking loans from the IMF, the World Bank. If that doesn't work, then they'll, send the jackals in and try to stage a coup from within. If that doesn't work, then ultimately they'll send in the jackboots, an outright military invasion, and all they have to do is invent some, propagandic bullshit for the American public to swallow, which they buy into every time as a whole. That, we need to go in there. This government is evil. Why, they don't have free elections like we do, or some other bullshit like that. Whatever it takes. They're supporting ISIS. It was Al-Qaeda a few years ago. Now it's ISIS. Next year it'll be something else. Whatever bullshit they're selling at any given moment. That's what they'll spew. Doesn't matter that there are no connections with that bullshit. How could there be? Because the thing that they're selling you is bullshit to begin with. But nevertheless, they'll sell it because they know the public will buy it. Any old excuse they can conjure up just to get people to go and fight their wars for them. Which is why today, more and more, you're seeing the United States, all in caps, turning to mercenary groups now, like Blackwater. Because there's such a high level of desertion on the part of the U.S. Army. You know, a lot of the recruited soldiers are walking. They get over there. They realize what a death trap it is. They realize that the whole thing was launched under fraudulent pretext. You know, look at Tillman, for example. What happened with him? He went over there with the sincerest aspirations, wanting to defend the United States from the boogeyman. And it's not till he gets over there before he realizes, holy shit, we're the boogeyman. We're the bad guys. This whole thing's a fucking fraud. He didn't kill himself like a good many have. He was on a rampage. He wanted to expose it, so they had to kill him instead. Oh, my God, is it disgusting, man. Anyway, hey, we get Brian on the line. Haven't heard from him in a while. How's it going, Brian?
How are you holding up there, Charlie?
I was disappointed. I thought you were going to be the Yahweh ass kisser again. He's fun. What a fucking piece. Don't listen to my show if you worship that piece of shit. We have nothing in common, especially now where you're going to praise corporations and defend them. I mean, what was his message with that? Did you catch that horse shit?
Actually, I was going to call yesterday, but after I heard that guy call in, I didn't know where to laugh or to cry. Seriously, I didn't know.
Oh, is it pathetic or what? I really do. I hope that guy, had a serious motorcycle accident a few years ago, and he can't help himself. I do. I not that I want anybody to have gone through that, but I hope that's his excuse. I hope he just, his brain is just hopelessly damaged, in which case I need to sympathize for the poor guy.
Yeah, I agree with Vinny, though, yesterday. You got to keep your temper under control, old buddy, because these people are just going to do this now purposely just to get your ire up.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. I know the temperament you have, and I know that you basically get very pissed off very easily, but you got to take it easy.
Yeah, they're not worth it.
They are not worth it. The moment this guy calls, the moment he even comes in the air, the moment you recognize the voice, you just got to hang up automatically. Because otherwise, these people are just going to try to keep doing this and bug you. Yeah. And it's just going to get to you.
I got her for 132 when I see that number. I'm not even going to pick it up. God, waste my fucking time.
Yeah. Well, it disgusts me when I listen to these Bible thumpers come in and praise Yahweh, like you said, the great evil baby killing monster in the sky. But don't forget, I'm like you, Charlie. At one time, I used to believe in that stuff. Probably back when I was a small child, I was forced to go to Catholic schools, and I was forced to go to church every Sunday, and they were trying to ram that crap into my brain. But
I believed in it when I was a young child too, up until 7 years ago.
Yeah,
I was still a young child in an adult's body.
Yeah, my biggest issue is, like I said, from an early age, because I was always a radical. I just used to always sit in church when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, even though I was forced to go by my parents. I used to sit there a lot of times with my arms folded and thinking, what kind of horse shit is this?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And, the hypocrisy that they teach, because I'm like you, I've been studying history since I was a small child. And I'm going, what the hell? This stuff does not make sense at all. Yeah. So I really sometimes challenge these Bible thumping dupes to explain themselves. Where do they come up with their thinking? Where does the rationality behind their God that commands people to kill with a sword and turn around and murder and rape and
then to call that thing the embodiment of love? Wow, man, you're brain damaged. Even if you didn't have a motorcycle accident, buddy, you have some brain damage.
Yeah.
To believe that shit, your brain is not functioning properly. You don't even know what love is. A loving God, did I even have to explain this, Brian? Scares the shit out of me. A loving God doesn't command the murder of little babies, you fucknut.
And it doesn't command the slaughter of innocent thousands. If you read in the biblical,
just to take their land.
Just to steal their land. What kind of a monster would do that? We are dealing with something that's actually the form of Satan. I agree with your synopsis.
Absolutely.
I agree with your synopsis a while back when you stated that Yahweh is Satan in the embodiment of Satan. That's exactly what it is. It is pure evil.
And to quote their buddy, the Apostle Paul, even Paul said, Satan is transformed into an angel of light. I couldn't agree more. And what better example than the very God that psychopathic son of a bitch was touting?
Yeah. But anyway, old buddy, I have to go back to work. But I just wanted to give you a quick shout out and say to you, to just not put up with these people, because, like I said, it just gets your ire up. And I'll tell you, your temper gets very flared up, and I don't blame you sometimes. But what you got to do again is just hang up with these bastards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Or not even pick up in the first place. I got to remember that.
Yeah.
Friggin'.
So you take care. I'll call back again soon when I have more time. Okay.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Take care. Yeah. That Italian temper. I can't do anything about that. Well, I can do something about it. Just avoid situations where I know it's going to flare up. Yeah, look, there he is. He's calling in now. Jesus Christ. Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? Get the fuck out of town, man. You think I'm going to answer your call, you nut? I got a stalker, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like David Letterman or something. I got a stalker. That's what he is. He's a goddamn stalker. Wow. He actually has the balls, the cojones, to call in again. This is going to be harassment now. He's doing it again. He just called in again. He's probably going to do that for the rest of the show now, because the psychopath has nothing better to do with his fucking pathetic life, but just to harass people. Great advertisement for your religion, though. Do you think there's even one person listening to this show that is impressed with your chicanery? Do you think that that's going to entice them to want to look into your God, that's going to win them over? Are you on a conversion campaign spree here, trying to win people for Jesus with this kind of fucking horse shit? All you're doing is proving the point. I don't have to expose the Bible and its bullshit. All you have to do is keep playing your little game, and it shows people what a fucking fraud you and your religion and your God and your holy book are. But because you're so mentally defected, you don't even have the mental wherewithal to see that, do you? Once again, what are you doing listening to a show that rightly identifies your God as a fucking prick? What are you doing listening to somebody who calls your God a piece of shit, who needs to be blowtorched and sandblasted, who needs to be put through a fucking wood chipper? What are you doing listening to somebody like me? According to your narrow-minded thinking, your juvenile thinking, I am a blasphemer. Why? I'm Antichrist. And you know what? I am. Well, actually, no, I'm not. Because the word Antichrist doesn't mean against Christ, which I certainly am. The word Antichrist means in place of Christ. No, I'm not an Antichrist. I'm not trying to set myself up in place of Christ. No, absolutely not. Am I an A-Christ? That means against Christ, or the opposite of Christ. Yes, I'm an A-Christ. There you go. Not a Christ, A representing the indefinite article. A Christ, one word, Anyway. Like asymmetrical. That I am, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. Absolutely. Interestingly, there's some Christians out there who recognize that, the fire-breathing dragon called Yahweh is evil, but yet they turn around and still worship Yahweh Jr. That one blows my mind probably more than anything else. I don't understand how you can fucking do that. You can't separate the two. If you're against Yah, you have to be against his little spawn. He said, I and my Father are one. Think about that for a minute. He said that they're one. He's talking about the great Yahya when he says that. How the fuck? It blows my mind, guys. It really does. How religious people try to pick and choose and justify accepting just this part over here, but rejecting that. You either accept it all or you reject it all. There's no middle ground. And for you to try to do so, you're just exposing yourself all the more as a mental midget, really. Sorry, but that's the reality of it. Amazing. I've known a lot of Christians over the years that have done that. They ignore the Old Testament. They write it off completely. And, if you read the book superficially, I can understand that because there's a lot more filth in the Old Testament than there is in the New. But sorry, the New Testament has its share of filth too. And the very fact that it's a tree that has grown from the roots of the Old Testament, you can't separate them. Anyway, looks like we have a non-psychopathic caller here. Welcome to the show, caller.
Oh, Charlie, I'm just listening, man. Thanks.
Oh, okay,
Great
buddy.
show.
Sorry, man.
Yep. No problem. Thanks, man. I'll put it on mute.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to our notes here. But, this is why, guys, the CIA has been so preoccupied with the financial interests of the United States. I've heard so many people over the years say, yeah, that's all the CIA does. They operate on behalf of corporations. Well, that's true. That's true. Look at the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953. They did that for their buddies. The Dulles brothers did that for their buddies at United Fruit Company. Very close friends with the CEO and the other top mucky mucks of United Fruit. But the CIA operates on behalf of the biggest corporation, the most powerful of all corporations, quote, the United States, all in caps. So when you see it operating on behalf of other corporations, those are just some of the interconnected corporations, the lesser ones that are tied in with the biggest one of all, at the head of the monopoly. But yes, it's true. The CIA operates only on behalf of corporations. It's true to say that, but do understand that the United States itself is a corporation. Because a lot of people will say, they're not operating on behalf of the U.S. or the United States. Oh, yes, they are. If you're identifying United States as an entity written all in capital letters, they are operating on behalf of that United States. They are. They definitely are. All right, guys. Second half here. Anyway, the Declaration of Independence, which has lost its meaning for me, but nevertheless states that, quote, government is subject to the consent of the governed. It does say that. But no, it's not the case anymore, is it? You don't have to be a genius to see that. It doesn't operate that way. It hasn't operated for that way for a long time. Well, you could argue it's never operated that way. It was never intended to. But nevertheless, we now know the reason why, don't we? Since 1871, it has legally not been subject to the consent of the governed. Because it's not a government, and you are not the governed. It is a corporation, and you are its property. Anyway, The only people the D.C. government has legitimate authority over, guys, as it turns out, even according to the law of 1871, are those living in the borders, that 10-mile-long strip of land called the District of Columbia. That's it. That's the only place that has legal jurisdiction, according even to the law of 1871. The government, which was created for the District of Columbia via the Act of 1871, operates under private international law and not common law, which was supposed to be the law of the constitutional republic. This is very important to note since it impacts all Americans in very concrete ways. You need to recognize that private international law is only applicable within the District of Columbia and not in the other states of the Union. The various arms of the corporation are known as departments, such as the judiciary, the Justice Department, the Treasury, on and on. Just like a corporation has various departments. Anyway, these departments all belong to the corporation known as, quote, the United States, but they do not belong, to we, the people. We did not knowingly enter into an agreement with this corporation. We were tricked into it, ladies and gentlemen. And so just on that basis alone, you can argue, again, not that it's necessarily going to get you anywhere, but there have been people who have done it and have had their case thrown out of court. Minor cases over minor issues, that is, have gotten them thrown out of court because they realize, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. Let's just forget this whole thing, sweep it under the rug. All right, you're acquitted or whatever, Simply arguing that the truth is all you have to do is just say you don't understand. They'll ask you, do you understand these charges? All you have to do is say, no, I don't. I don't get the language. Play dumb if you have to. That a lot of times that will send them in a tailspin because I can't hold you liable for something you don't even understand. Although, be careful with that one because they could simply wind you up in a nut house. You'll be far worse off than you ever were before. There have been people that have done that. Not to be gross, but just to give you an example. And in fact, this was in a movie. I think I had seen this, but I know that it's actually been done in real life, where right in front of the judge in the courtroom, a person will, pick their ass and start making crazy noises and just acting like they're literally out of their minds. And sure, it can get you out of liability in a courtroom, but where's that going to get you? Remember the story of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It worked for Jack Nicholson, but ultimately, where did it get him? Wound him up getting a lobotomy. But it did get him, out of his legal liabilities in court. There are all kinds of ways to trick this system. You know what, guys? I'm all for it. I really am. I'm all for it. Trick the system. Fuck the system. Any way you can. As long as you can get away with it. Fuck it any way you can. I am totally for it. When I hear of, a small bank robbery or something, I don't sympathize for the bank. I cheer on the robbers as long as they're not killing or hurting people. I'm all for it. Rob the son of a bitch. They're robbing us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Problem is, you don't hear much about that anymore, do you? And it's not because they're better with security. It's because people are pussified. They put up with the shenanigans of these thievish fucking institutions. People don't stand up to these scumbags anymore. Well, I mean, there are security cameras and whatnot. You're going to be, your face is going to be all over the front page within 3.2 seconds. It isn't as easy as it used to be. But there's even ways around that, guys. The point is, the real reason you don't see bank robberies anymore is people have become pussified. The real reason you don't see people standing up to this bitch of a system, mass protesting, legitimate protesting, not rabble-rousing, storefront window-smashing protesting. People are pussified. The fear factor. They even have a show named after that, don't they? They love the fear factor. They want you in fear. They want you to think that you have no chance, no hope. Don't even bother trying. Just go along, acquiesce, tuck your tail between your legs, and bite your lip and just put up with it. That's the kind of mentality they want from their employees. Just like any corporation, you might not like you getting fucked, but let us fuck you anyway. Do your job and shut up, and you'll get a paycheck at the end of the week. Not a very good one, but, that's all you've got. That's their attitude, isn't it? You need us. We don't need you. When the truth is, they do need you. Problem is, though, they don't care about you as an individual if you leave or if they fire you, because there's plenty more like you out there that they can rehire and fill your position. It's really sad, guys, the mess we're in. It's really, really frickin' pathetic. It's a situation that need not exist. A situation that could be easily rectified. If people would store up, enough food so they could last for, a few months or so. Boycott the entire system. Shut it right the fuck down. That's the best protest right there. Absolutely refuse to participate in anything to keep the machine greased and turning. Don't show up for work. Don't participate in their fraudulent fucking voting bullshit. That's going to send a message. That you could get everybody on the same page to do that. They would be shitting themselves overnight. They wouldn't know what to do. You're not committing, any violent acts. You're not doing anything that would justify you getting arrested. You're just not playing the game anymore. You recognize it's a fraud, and you're not going to show up at the gambling casino and pull the levers because the machines are rigged so that only people who are related to the casino owner are going to win in the first place. So why bother? You're not going to play the game anymore. I would love to see that. Non-violent, not illegal. No one's getting hurt. You're not committing any arrestable offense. They can't even twist it to make it an arrestable offense. You're just not playing the game anymore. That'd be the way to do it. Christ. But get the mutton-chomping dumbass sheep out there, to get on board with you with something like that. Forget it. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. You can't even get them to realize that the system is so far gone that it can't be turned around. It has to be scrapped completely. That would be a good way to start. A huge walkout, a mass strike, nationwide strike. That would be a good place to start. But ultimately, guys, you have to replace every one of these bastards. You have to abolish the current system, all the legalities of it, completely overturn it and replace it with something new. You'd have to. You can't reform this. Like the illustration I like to use, it's like trying to turn this morning's shit back into last night's meatloaf. You can't do it. You got to flush it and make a new meatloaf. This system has to be flushed, ultimately. The scenario I just suggested, that's a good way to start. You're sending a message, but you that's only step one. You couldn't stop there. If you got them to acquiesce, and that's only the initial first step. Ultimately, the system has to be replaced, completely replaced. can't reform it. All of them are hand-picked little minions. Ultimately, they all need to be arrested for treason, ladies and gentlemen. In their minds, they're not committing treason. They're running a corporation the way it's supposed to be run. But nevertheless, we have been duped into following this phony system that they've lied us into. So they are betrayers. We never volunteered for this. When we signed those documents with our names in caps, we didn't know what we were signing. So the little puppets, the corporate whores on Wall Street in Washington are responsible. They need to be arrested. But the real criminals, the string pullers on Wall Street, those are the ones that really we need to go after. The scum in Washington, the little puppets, yeah, we'll come for them later. The first ones, guys, where we need to start is right there. The hook-nosed tribal corporate bastards on Wall Street. They're, corporate investors, if you will. That's what they are. That's what the lobbyists are that lobby on behalf of the big corporations. They're lobbyists, not just for the individual corporation that has employed them. They're lobbyists for the ultimate corporation, Washington. Or investors in the corporation, if you will. All the checks that they hand out to the political minions, that's what they amount to. They're corporate investments. They're the ultimate string pullers. They're the ones calling the shots, guys. They're the ultimate power behind this system. But try to get most people to realize that. They got them focused on the little puppets, the candidates for the phony campaigns. It's so disgusting how people are so easily fooled by this. It's all pageantry, every last goddamn bit of it. Ever wonder why politicians don't care about what we, the people, think? That's because they don't work for us, ladies and gentlemen. They never have, and apparently never will. They work for the corporation of, again, United States, all in caps. It is to this corporation that they answer, not us. This is what the Act of 1877 was all about. This is what it accomplished. The situation became even worse with the purportedly ratified 14th Amendment, which made us property of the corporation. All of this was done, again, in line with this corporate entity that was created. The same is true in London, of course, with the city. And you know what? You could say the same thing about the Vatican, guys. Members of the Catholic Church aren't just members of a church. In fact, that's just the window dressing. Just like most Americans think that they're citizens of a country called the United States. That's just all part of the window dressing. What they really are, though, is minions of the United States, all in caps, corporation. So it is with members of the Catholic Church. All of them are nothing but minions of the Vatican, the corporation called the Vatican. They're property of the Vatican. So when you give generous contributions, if you're so gullible to do so, in the plate every Sunday at church, they actually view that as you paying what is required of you, your union dues, if you will. And that ultimately they don't do it now because they know people would catch on and the whole thing would go belly up. But ultimately, if they have their way, they're going to make it a requirement that you have to pay your tithe or you'll be thrown out of the church or maybe ultimately stretched out on the rack and burnt at the stake like the good old days. But in their thinking, you're only paying what is required of you. You're not being generous. They're not appreciative. Some low-level priests and nuns are that don't know what's going on. But the system itself, the way it views your contributions, you're paying your dues, what's required of you. They don't owe you any appreciation. That's what you're supposed to do. The same with paying taxes, guys. They say it's voluntary. They have to say that, so they can get away with their scam. But no, the way they actually view it is you're paying your dues that are required of you. They don't owe anything to you. You owe to them. You're nothing but a minion, an exploitable human resource to them. Once you see that, guys, now it all makes total sense, the way this whole bitch of a system operates. You now have the proper context for understanding what goes on in these psycho bastards' heads to drive them to do what they do. Anyway, as I said, the same is true in London. We find the same thing going on there. This little strip of land that's separate and sovereign from the rest of the city and the country of England. This corporation called the city it runs the rest of England, just like D.C. runs the rest of the U.S. This international financial oligarchy, headed up by ultimately the Rothschilds, uses the allegoric crown as its symbol of power, having nothing to do with the British royal family necessarily. Although they're now working in tandem because the ones who run the crown have complete control over them, just like they have complete control over, the Vatican. They've completely taken over the royal and priestly bloodlines. So they've allowed them to continue to keep records of their genealogy and all that because they have total control over them now. The third faction, if you will, the secret societies and their banking enterprises. So they're allowing them, to continue on in a much reduced form. But like I said, guys, they'll probably allow the Catholic Church to emerge in the fore. It seems to be going in that direction now, but only because they completely control it. They know it's not going to run off and split away and become independent from them again and want to, take control of the show. They have it totally controlled. The Vatican is infested with Freemasons. All the top-notch heads of the Vatican are Freemasons. And, a lot of Catholics think, that's a tremendous change has taken place. No. All that's taken place is one goddamn Jewish faction is taking control over another Jewish faction that was running it. So as far as we're concerned, it's no change at all. It's only a window dressing change. It's still the tribe running it, but a different branch of the tribe. That's it. But the way it's going to pan out in the end, nothing has changed. It's the same Jew World Order agenda that's being pushed. It's the same thing the priestly bloodline wanted. So it's going to come out the same in the wash. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same as far as the tribe members are concerned, but the rest of us, it is the same. Anyway, I go on to talk about the city a little more here, but it's pretty much stuff I already covered yesterday, so it's not necessary. But it is interesting to see that, it's the same damn arrangement. Same thing we have here with the District of Columbia is what you have with the city. And like I said, with the Vatican as well. Anyway, but, tell that to your average Catholic, try to get them to realize that. You might get them to realize that that's going on with the city or with the District of Columbia. But try to get them to see that their church headquarters operates that same way. Forget it. And that they are, in fact, part of not just a world governmental system, but a corporation. Vatican Inc. Anyway, and again, here in the United States, guys, all churches are corporations, aren't they? 501c3 corporations, not sovereign corporations like, DC. They have to answer to the head corporation that heads up the monopoly, but corporations nonetheless, which is why, they have titles like president, just like a corporation has a president, right? Most churches now have a president. They have a treasurer, don't they? These are all legal terms operating under the auspice of this legally created entity, this corporate entity. They're fulfilling their franchise agreement by having these titles. They have legal meanings to them. They even have, a board, right? The church board. Local churches have them too, but I'm talking about in the bigger scheme of things here, where the central office is like the central headquarters of a corporation. The central office has a board which makes decisions for the entire church body, presided over by the president. Oh, yeah. They're corporations in every sense of the word, aren't they? Anyway, these parallels between DC and the city in London are striking, but the similarities and relationships don't end there. It goes even deeper than that. Interestingly, all of our presidents for decades now have had, not for decades. It's been that way from day one. But all of our presidents actually are related to the royal bloodline. It's amazing. That story actually came out in mainstream media several years ago. It was this young girl, I forget her name now, out in California, I think it was, that put together a genealogical chart, and she made the headlines. She wasn't doing anything that hadn't already been done, but it was just amazing that this young girl had figured this out. I think she was only like 12 years old at the time. Most adults never figure that out, and yet this kid came along, and sure, she found that every president, every one of them, she said that there was one or two exceptions, but no. Actually, I think since then, she's admitted now that they're not even exceptions, that there aren't any exceptions. Every president, every freaking one of them, has been found to be interrelated not only with one another, but, of course, with the royal bloodlines. So what does that tell us, guys? We're dealing with cryptos, every one of them. Of course they are. Some of them are much more tribal than others, like Abraham Lincoln, like the Roosevelts. But all of them have tribal blood in their veins. All of them have. Every last one of them. And of course, a great many of our presidents, in fact, there's perhaps no exceptions to the rule, but we know that there have been mainstream reports showing that pretty much all of them have been knighted over the years. Knighted by the Queen in the Order of the Garter, which she's, the leader of. And as I said yesterday, ultimately, what does that do? It makes them subject to not the Queen per se, but to the crown, whom the Queen herself is subject to. The crown being the city run by the goddamn Rothschilds. Anyway. Oh, it's just amazing, guys. The light goes on when you start looking into the stuff. You realize how deep, this rat hole goes. Anyway, I'm just looking through these notes. I don't want to be repeating myself. A lot of the stuff I already mentioned yesterday. Just for example, George Bush Sr. was knighted on December 20th, 1993 as a Knight Grand Cross of the Most Honorable Order of the Bath. General Colin Powell and General Norman Schwarzkopf were given lower order of knighthoods as well. Schwarzkopf. Lord Peter Carrington, a member of the Order of Osiris and other dark, nefarious groups. All right, guys, welcome back. Already in the last segment here. Anyway, the Order of the Garter is the parent organization over Freemasonry worldwide. It's the world headquarters, if you will, of Freemasonry, located right there in the city. Therefore, when a man becomes a 33rd degree Mason, he swears allegiance to that organization and thereby to the crown, and thus to the Rothschilds. CNN reported on September 26, 2002, quote, U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan has received an honorary knighthood from Britain's Queen Elizabeth II. The honor, recommended by the UK Foreign Office and approved by the Queen in August, is in recognition of Greenspan's contribution to the global economic stability. Holy Christ. Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. What does that mean? Global economic stability. Whose stability? God damn it, man. Yes, thanks for doing your part in fucking up everybody else's livelihood by securing ours. You've earned a knighthood. You are indeed one of our chosen and faithful servants. Isn't that precious, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, got another caller here. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Vin, what's up, man?
Hey, you really do have a stalker, huh?
Yeah, apparently. I
missed it earlier. I
feel honored.
In and I heard you flipping out on it. The
same one.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, but you have to understand that this kind of person, being as childish as they are, they do have they have an infant sort of a schoolyard mentality.
Yeah.
That when you get mad, they feel as though they win.
Oh yeah. They feed on it. They love it.
They love on it. That's right. In their mind, it's like I'm sure you've been online and did all those, gone to forums and stuff. These people if they call you names and you get mad, they think they win. I mean, that's how, it's an infantile way of doing it. I have a friend that's a radio personality. You did it for years, and he used to have this guy call up in his show every once in a while. So he would let him talk, and he would say, "You think the flat Earth is crazy?" This guy would say the Earth was a cube.
Oh, gee.
And so what he would do is just let the guy talk. And while the guy was talking, and this guy would go on like 5 minutes or so, he would just like play music in the background. Let him do it. Just to let him do it, because it's so funny in a way that this guy doesn't even understand that. He doesn't have a clue about anything. It's like that. Like I said, it's like the guy that crawls up and starts yelling at you. His problem is he doesn't know. He's so dumb that he doesn't know he's dumb. Because you have to be at least smart enough to know that you might be wrong about something.
Right.
This guy obviously, he doesn't even know that he's too dumb to realize that he's dumb. I mean, he's
too stupid to realize that as a follower of the great Yahya, he shouldn't be listening to somebody like me because I'm a blasphemer, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And what's happening is that he's, by listening to you, if he goes by the script, you're just an agent of the devil or Lucifer.
Right, yeah.
Although, like you've said this, is if you have the truth. What's that? David and the lion, was it?
Yeah.
If you have the truth, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
But obviously he is afraid because all he does is comes in and starts yelling. So it's just fascinating how that goes. That's why I would really take that kind of thing. What I do is let him rant and just listen to him and say, "Are you done now?" Okay,
yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks, buddy. Take it easy. Hey, take care now. Be sure to call in again. Let him have a few minutes of screaming, because what happens is everybody listens to the show is like, this guy's a jerk. The only person that won't know it is him. And then what happens as more people listen, somebody might actually know this guy. And they'll go, hey, are you the one that calls into this show? You're a real idiot. Somebody might in his real life. By the way, you were talking about Masons. I know somebody who is a black Mason, and although he would never tell me that he was a 33rd degree Mason, he would tell other people. Because I would call him on it. I'm like, how if you really were a 33rd degree Mason, you wouldn't be working with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's kind of people out there that suffer some sort of, or they like to believe that there's something more than they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But plus he's a black Mason. He's not in the white man's club, I guess, or the real Jewish club.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that watch a guy run around like a madman thinking he's somebody, and he has to work. He works 2 jobs and his wife works a job. I mean, what are you getting out of the Masons?
Yeah.
It's getting so bad that they got to work 2 jobs. So finish your show up. I just wanted to call in and tell you, hey, listen, the guy's entertaining in a way. If you could smile through it and realize that he is really an adult child. He's the definition of an adult child.
A lot of it stems too from the just my past experience with.
I know that. I get that completely. Like I said, I used to get mad at people, and I used to go right back at them. But then after a while, I realized, well, first of all, there's no way I'm ever going to communicate with this person if I attack them. So it's better off. I learned that with 9/11, especially.
Yeah.
What I do is I don't try to. Any subject that's taboo, I don't say anything about it, especially if I post online or talk about it. What I do is I just post photographic evidence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then let people say whatever they want. You put the truth out there. That's all you can really do.
Yeah.
And let the chips. That's why I say there's so many parts of the Bible that you could trash the guy with.
Yeah.
Let him calm down. Maybe if he calls in a few times, he might actually become a little civil. And then you can ask them, how do you really, like you said, you really support a God that lusts after blood? He wants to kill everything that he created.
Right.
What kind of psychopath would do that? He can only blame himself for creating these, individuals that he doesn't like. It's not their fault. If he gave them free will, well, he's the problem. Why do you want to give these crazy people free will? So take care, Charlie.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling, man.
All right, bye now.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I've had people say, oh, you're just bitter because of your experience. Well, yeah, of course I am. Of course I'm bitter. I don't think I'll ever get over that bitterness. Pissed away decades of my life with that horse shit. Of course I'm bitter. But the truth is, even if I wasn't a victim of it for so long, I think I'd still be bitter. It just enrages me that this system exploits and takes advantage of people's ignorance to manipulate them, just like any other corporation does. You got people manipulated by the governmental corporation, by the religious corporations. The whole thing is all corporate, ladies and gentlemen. The whole world is run by corporations. It is. Everything. Religion is a business in every single sense of the word. I won't get to that until at least tomorrow, but what I'm going to follow this show up with is very interesting. I put these notes together a long time ago, too. Always intended to get around to it, never did, but I'm going to talk about how corporations have achieved personhood. It's the natural follow-up to this discussion. How they did that is pretty amazing. They literally have legal status as persons, and therefore they claim rights to themselves as though they are persons. And yet all the while, we who have on occasion gone up against these bitch corporations in the courtroom, we as real persons, natural born persons, very often don't have rights in that same courtroom as persons, and yet the corporation does have rights as persons. And why? Because the whole court system is a corporate enterprise, and so it's going to defend the corporation and not recognize you, the person, as a person because you're a piece of property of the corporation. You see what's going on. Of course the court system is going to recognize them over you. They're defending a fellow corporate enterprise. So you can use the person argument all you want. They turned the tables on us, ladies and gentlemen, and identified themselves, these artificial created entities, as frickin' persons entitled to the rights that you as a real person is supposed to be entitled to. Unbelievable. The mind fuckery of it all. It's all a game. That's all it is. The whole frickin' thing. Just like religion, it's all a game. All the world is a stage. Anyway. A another little tidbit I threw in here as a little side note. This is interesting. You ever wonder why New York is called the Empire State, ladies and gentlemen? You see how they put this stuff right in your face? Nobody ever stops to ask, why is New York called the Empire State? Because it is an empire that they're building, and it's in that state where the whole thing is being run. You have, for example, the UN, don't you? You have all the major banking firms and investment firms and the big financial head of the whole thing, which ultimately is what controls D.C., That's your real empire state right there. Just like D.C. is its own sovereign state, so is the UN, guys. The minute you step foot onto the UN's property in New York, you are in no man's land. Did you know that? If you should break a law on the the territory there of the UN, on their property, you're subject to their jurisdiction, not the United States, just like an embassy. You're not on your nation's turf anymore, according to their reckoning. If you spit on their sidewalk or something, technically, they could do whatever they wanted to you. Did you know that Catholic churches are considered embassies? They are. Legally. They're embassies. Which is why when they were pursuing, what a fraud that whole fucking thing was, but when they were pursuing, what's his name there? Noriega, back in 89. Where did he run? Where did he go to? He went into a Catholic church. You remember that? And as long as he stayed in that church, they couldn't touch him. They couldn't do anything. All they could do is wait outside, hoping he would come out, and then they could arrest him. They couldn't go in and get him. The only reason he left the church is because the priest talked him into it. He talked him into walking outside and handing himself in. But as long as he stayed in that church, they couldn't touch him, because all Catholic churches are legally embassies. Embassies to the foreign Vatican state. Isn't that interesting, guys? Very, very interesting. People don't realize. Oh, everything is a facade, man. Everything is a frickin' scam, a fraud. Nothing in this world is what you've been led to believe that it is. Nothing. Ever wonder why they call our halls of justice courts? This comes from the Maritime Admiralty law as well, as in the Queen's Court. They also play tennis on a court, and the instrument used to hit the ball is called a racket, interestingly. Do you suppose they're sending a little hidden message here? Do you suppose these terms were created in a vacuum? I can't remember if I did this show or not now, but I did a show on baseball and the connections with Freemasonry. The numerology involved in the baseball game. The very shape of the baseball diamond, guys. It's a Masonic compass and frickin' square, for Christ's sakes. 3 strikes, you're out. 9 innings, they're all Masonic / Kabbalistic numbers, the whole damn thing. Can't remember if I did that show or not yet, but so many things in our world are that way. Square deal. I got a square deal on that car. We use terms like that all the time. Do you think those terms just randomly popped into someone's head? No, guys. No. Just like, corporate symbols. People see these symbols all the time. They don't even bat an eyelash at them. They don't even realize. Look at the back of your $1 bill. You don't get more Masonic than that, goddammit. The whole thing, not just the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Everything on the back of that bill. Everything serves a dark Kabbalistic occultic function. It has nothing to do with the founding of the United States. All the 13s, even the 1776 in Roman numerals, has nothing to do with the American Revolution, guys. The founding of Weishaupt's little Illuminati, the same year, May 1st. The 13s have nothing to do with the 13 colonies. God damn it. There were 13 colonies for Kabbalistic reasons. That was no accident either. But all the numbers 13 on the back of the bill have nothing to do with a reflection of the 13 colonies. The 13 colonies themselves were a reflection of occultism. And I can't believe that there's a lot of people in the truth movement that poo-poo that stuff away. Oh, that's ridiculous. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Oh, no. You're making a molehill out of a fucking mountain, goddammit. You can't ignore that, especially when you realize the tribe is behind all of this horse shit. They created Freemasonry. Of course they're going to incorporate everything with Freemasonic symbology. It's like a dog leaving his little piss stains everywhere he goes. Some of these points, actually, I created this such a long time ago. Some of these points were brought out on a video done by that psycho Masonic bastard himself, Jordan Maxwell. But nevertheless, they are good points. That's how they work, guys. They get one of their own little minions to bring out some truth. Manly P. Hall brings out some very interesting, truthful points in his books. I've read them. There are some good stuff, some good things in his books. Yeah, but that's how it works. They reel you in. And even though they are good points, they're just playing with you guys. It's like a fisherman with the worm on the hook, you know. There's so much he's not telling you, but the few little tidbits that he is, what they're hoping is that you'll be so reeled in, you'll start thinking that this guy can be trusted, and next thing you know, you're showing up to the lodge this week. That was the aim behind Harry Potter, as it turns out. And Rowling actually admitted years later in an interview that her purpose was to recruit people, especially young people, she said, to recruit them into Wicca, that she's a major supporter of Wicca, which, of course, is as tribal as you can get, as Freemasonic and Kabbalistic as you can get. I actually got some show notes I threw together recently on that whole thing. We'll talk about that at some point. Anyway. But, you know, you ever wonder why the judge rules from a bench? This word from the Latin banc is where we get the word bank from. The bench really means bank. So the judge is ruling from or on behalf of the bank. Well, the banksters. It's all set up in the interest of big money, the corporation, which is why you almost never hear of people winning against a big corporation or a bank or against El Governmente itself, which is another corporation. Almost never, guys. When you go up against these son of a bitches, you're going to lose, not only because they can afford the best lawyers money can buy, which themselves are nothing but corrupt pieces of shit, but the way the whole system is set up, you're going to lose anyway. They don't even need the best lawyers money can buy. The judge is already bought and paid for. He knows his job is to rule in favor of the big corporation, you see. Interestingly, we usually find banks on either side of major rivers, as it turns out. That's not by accident either. The symbolism there is, rivers direct the flow of currency, if you will. In this, they get the term cash flow. Think about it, guys. Maritime admiralty law came from the waters, right? It was up the rivers they came bringing their goods to sell. Why does a judge wear black, by the way? Did you ever wonder that? Where does that imagery come from? This is the color of death and doom and gloom. It always has been. It was always the color of, the high priests, right? To this day, Roman Catholic priests, most of the time, wear frickin' black. That's not a symbol of something good, of something wholesome, of something innocent. It's always been a symbol of something dark, evil, and foreboding. At least they're dressed in proper attire. They're telling you in your face what they are, what they represent. But black robes are also what the Grand Masters wear in Freemasonry, ladies and gentlemen. They also use a gavel. Think about it. The way a lot of courts are set up, it's set up like a Masonic lodge. Christ, a lot of them have black and white tiles on the floor, just like Freemasonic frickin' lodges. And isn't he addressed, the judge, as Your Honor? What do they call the heads of, the Grand Masters? Your Excellency, or some other phony-ass honorary title, when they're not honorable at all, ladies and gentlemen, are they? Anyway. Another group of people that wear dark clothing or have worn it in history are executioners, designed to evoke fear and a sense of condemnation. Why would a judge wear black when it has always stood for such things, guys? They want you to be in fear. They want you to think that he's your superior, you're his inferior. Be silent when the judge